Back in my day, things were simpler. We liked our sketch comedy to be pure. We wanted it live, or at the very least filmed in front of an audience. We liked the toot-toot from the old trumpet and the dingly-dangly from the piano. We liked our fly girls fly and our children in bathtubs. It was a simpler time. A time when sketches were just sketches and our movies were movies. And if you would have said Broadway video, someone would have thought that you're talking about some sort of Hollywood video ripoff. A simpler time. Before sketches also needed to be movies. But the world has changed. So let's take a look at every SNL film ever made and see if making Lorne Michaels even more wealthy was worth it. Hey, you donkeys. I'm Robert Bacon of the 91 Donkey Lane podcast and the Geekscape network. I watched every single SNL film in order of theatrical release with my friends Marie Maloney and Caleb George for the podcast Adam Sandler, Please Stop. While we were watching, we ranked all of these films from our least favorite to our most favorite. And originally, we had our own lists, but they turned out to be exactly the same, so that worked out nicely. Before we get started, just wanted to say that this is our own personal list. If you disagree with it, then feel free to comment how much I suck and write up your own list if you want. But joke's on you, if you watched all of these, then you had to sit through some stinkers. But before you comment, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and delete your Facebook. So what exactly constitutes an SNL film? This Wikipedia page. That's what. Oh, you want more info? Okay, I'm just gonna give it to Matt Kelly to explain.
An SNL movie is any movie featuring characters from an SNL sketch.
Thanks, Matt. Please stay out of my mail and stop calling me at 4 a.m. to talk about movies. Get some sleep, you weirdo. Let's get on to the rankings, from worst to first. Number 11, it's Pat. For those of you who are too young to know, Pat was a character on SNL whose only joke was that you couldn't tell what their sex was. Is Pat a boy or a girl? No one knows. I know, it's not really a funny premise, but you have to remember that hitting your wife so hard that she could figuratively fly to the moon used to be considered funny, so I guess this is some sort of progress. The weirdest thing about It's Pat is that the one joke isn't even the most annoying thing about the movie. The most annoying thing is Pat. Pat is egotistical, narcissistic, rude, mean, and just an all-around swampy bag of doucheness. I hate Pat. I don't care what sex Pat is or what their sexuality is. Who cares? Pat might be the worst, most obnoxious character I have ever had to endure during a movie, and I've watched Jack and Jill 4 times.
What the hell are you anyway?
Oh, I know what you're thinking. Am I a Crip or am I a Blood?
No. What we want to know is, are you a brother or a sister?
Well, I'm an only child.
The only good thing to come out of this movie for me was my personal discovery of the band Ween. The band seemed like the only cool thing in this whole movie, so after I was done watching this pile of garbage, I looked up the name of the band and started listening to a couple songs, thinking that there'd be no way that they could be any good if they were in this. But how wrong I was. I instantly fell in love with Ween. Now I pray to Boognish, and I'm totally down with the Brown, but I am not down with this turd of a movie. It's Pat is awful, and I hope to never speak of it again.
Pat, can I tell you something? We admire your persistence and your creativity, but we meant it when we said we only needed you for one show.
That's all right. I'm tired of people looking at me.
Number 10, Blues Brothers 2000.
How dare you stand where he stood?
A Chicago icon hasn't been this disrespected since they landed a spaceship in Soldier Field. Blues Brothers 2000 is considered a war crime in the Chicagoland area, as it should be. I'm not the type of person that thinks remakes or sequels ruin the original film. Yeah, I really hated the CGI Lion King, but guess what? I don't care that it was a soulless corporate cash grab, because the original still exists and it's still awesome. Blues Brothers 2000 is different because its only goal seems to be to urinate all over the legacy of the Blues Brothers. Gone is everything that made the original so enjoyable, and in its place, an amusement park stage show performance with no heart and definitely no soul. I hate this film, and I'd rather not talk about it anymore. Please never make another Blues Brothers film ever again.
I got no brother, I got no roots, I got no life, I got nothing, for Christ's sake.
Number 9. Stuart saves his family. Did you know this was a movie? I didn't when we first started watching these. I remember the sketch fondly and think it's a pretty interesting character that could potentially carry a whole movie, especially if we're going to meet other really interesting characters from his family. Well, they decided to go in a different direction with this one. It's presented as a comedy, but the script is clearly a drama. So the whole movie is dealing with some pretty serious moments, but because it's lit and shot like a comedy, it's kind of unsettling to watch. The sketch that the movie is based on is a parody of self-help gurus. Most of these performers have experienced real-life tragedy and hardship, but usually present themselves as well put together, and they don't like to show cracks in their facade. Stuart is funny because he's an honest self-help guru that isn't afraid to be himself and truly wants to help others. Unfortunately, all of this is lost in this film, and instead of being an honest comedy, it becomes a belaboring drama, and at no point do I feel like Stuart is saving his family from anything. If anything, I hate his family, and I'd rather they not be on screen. There is something here. The film does present some good ideas, and the performances are really great. There's some good moments, but overall, I just didn't enjoy watching this thing.
I deserve good things. I am entitled to my share of happiness. I refuse to beat myself up. I am an attractive person. I am fun to be with.
Daily Affirmation with Stuart Smalley.
Number 8, Wayne's World 2. It's really difficult to make a good sequel to a comedy, and Wayne's World 2 is unfortunately one of those sequels that just doesn't work out. The original has lots of great moments that still hold up to this day. Wayne's World 2 depends more on parodying things that were really popular at the time, but haven't really stayed in our cultural zeitgeist. So a lot of jokes will be lost on modern audiences, but that's not the main issue. The main problem is everything they could have done with these characters, they already did in the original film. Now it just feels like they ran out of material and are desperately trying to fill time. I will say that I don't think we would have had all the Austin Powers movies without this film. Wayne's World 2 feels like Austin Powers beta testing. This movie stumbled so Austin Powers could walk. There are some great jokes in this, and while it's low on the list, anything from here on out isn't complete garbage, and I could understand why someone might actually really enjoy this. For me, I just could have done without this sequel, and I wish that we got a different movie with Mike Myers and Dana Carvey instead.
Do we have to put up with this? I mean, can't we get a better actor? I know it's a small part, but I think we can do better than this.
Number 7, Ladies Man. I loved the Ladies Man sketches back in the day. And who didn't love doing the Ladies Man voice? It's such a fun character that was overly confident and disgusting, yet somehow still cool and a ton of fun. It's a character that somehow sits between pathetic and genius. The movie itself is pretty enjoyable, It does have some of the best villains of any SNL film.
We're never gonna catch this guy.
Calm down, Barney. You've got to take that defeatist attitude and subdue it. Wrestle it to the ground. Pin it's well-oiled and musky form down hard.
And the ladies' man has some really great one-off lines.
Okay, that's cool, I guess. Listen, my car doesn't exist, so...
Shut up.
Yes.
This one could have easily been flipped with number 6 on the list, but it sits firmly at number 7 for me. I had a lot of fun watching this thing, and the fact that it sits so low on this list surprisingly shows how many good SNL films there are. I mean, I'm pretty sure Matt Kelly would put this much higher on this list. Actually, let's see how he feels.
The Ladies' Man is a delightful movie. Funny, it's just absurd. Bacon's crazy, number 1 all the way, number 1 all the way, Ladies' Man.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Matt, and I respect your opinion, but you're wrong. This is clearly number 7. If you love the sketch, you'll really love the movie.
I see under interests, you've written debit?
No, that's the butt. The butt. Yeah. And also I like tennis.
Good, good.
Number 6, Superstar. Another SNL sketch that everyone was quoting constantly. Just sticking your hands in your armpits and aggressively smelling them was peak comedy for me when this thing came out. I saw this in theaters and I loved every minute of it.
We know you're a little slut. No, I'm not. I'm not a slut. I'm not a slut.
Watching it again, I still loved it. Molly Shannon is a delight in this film, and you could tell she really loves playing Mary Catherine Gallagher. The plot is simple and really just a vehicle for us to see Mary Catherine Gallagher in different situations. Will Ferrell is also in this thing, and it's hilarious that he's playing a high school-aged kid. I love how they just leaned into everyone being too old for their roles. They do such a good job of world building that you kind of forget about that joke and you buy into the insanity that's on screen. Loved this film. I bet you it's number 1 for a lot of people. All the movies in the middle here could easily be arranged on this list as well. They're all solid.
And the devil's in you, and the devil's in me, and the devil's got a big heart.
Hey, Maria!
Number 5, Coneheads. This might be the biggest surprise for me on this list. When we sat down to watch this thing, I never thought I would enjoy it. I mean, I loved it when it came out, but I was a dumb child, so I can't trust past versions of me. As an adult, I didn't really enjoy the Coneheads sketches as much as I once did. It just seems like the same joke over and over. They're aliens who are obviously aliens, but everyone around them doesn't see it. The jokes kind of feel like the same jokes from like the Jetsons or the Flintstones. Those shows use different places in time to comment on stereotypical suburban life. With Coneheads, they're using this fish out of water story to do the same thing. But the difference here is the jokes are actually funny. It's everything from the SNL sketch, but dialed up to 11, and in a movie that doesn't feel like a normal SNL movie. This thing feels like a big summer blockbuster. And if you have any nostalgia for late 90s comedies, then you'll love Coneheads. Then, on top of all that, I can't believe this film actually has a message to send. Yes, Coneheads, a film about aliens that talk like robots and have cones for heads, tackles some pretty tough topics, and it does so wonderfully. The end of the film is bonkers and completely different from the rest, but if you're watching this with a group of friends, you won't care. You'll all be having too much fun.
You will.
Number 4, A Night at the Roxbury. This shouldn't work. It's a feature-length film based on a sketch where the main characters don't even really talk. No one even knows these guys' names. And the sketch itself is basically the same jokes every time with just slight variations. You can't make a movie about this, right? Wrong. Sure, we get all the fan service we want, seeing our main characters do the thing that we all know and love. But thanks to some great performances from both Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan, this film has legs. Farrell and Catan are a great comedic duo, and it's a real shame they didn't make more movies together. Will has that dumb, slow energy that plays perfectly off Chris Kattan's frantic, jerky movements. They're both idiots with really dumb goals, but they're so much fun together, you can't help but root for them. There's so many amazing quotable moments that I completely forgot about.
And who do you think that guy was?
Emilio Estevez.
The Mighty Duckman, I swear to God, I was there.
Of course you were. You were the one who yelled the Breakfast Clubber's name.
I was like, Emilio!
Lots of fun characters for our two brothers to play off of, and a simple plot that doesn't try to drive the movie. This thing is about watching these two idiots in different situations and having a blast while doing it. If this is your favorite SNL film, I could see why.
And who do you think that guy was?
Emilio Estevez.
The Mighty Duckman, I swear to God. I was like, Emilio!
Number 3, MacGruber. Another film based on a sketch that I would never in a million years think would make a good film. It's a sketch parodying a crappy show from the 80s. It almost feels like a throwaway sketch that's just there to be dumb. While MacGruber the movie is so much more than that, while still staying true to the characters that they've established in the sketch. This movie never stops. It's going so fast, throwing so many jokes at you, that it doesn't even stop to care if you're liking it. The movie is having a great time, and you're just along for the ride. Will Forte, Kristen Wiig, and Val Kilmer crush it in this movie. So many great scenes. If I had to pick my favorite, I would say the sex scene. I'm not going to give anything away, but this movie is bonkers, and somehow they were still able to heighten this scene to insanity. I haven't had a chance to watch the new MacGruber TV show, but as soon as I'm done watching horrible movies all the time, I'm going to get to it. For now, this does sit at number 3, but some days this feels like number 1 to me.
What did you think of my eulogies?
Very touching. I might have cut back on the F words a little.
Well, they were fucking great guys. And this is a fucking asshole of a day.
Number 2, Wayne's World. Unlike so many other sketches on this list, it's clear to see how Wayne's World could be the perfect sketch to turn into a movie. You have these two amazing, lovable characters with hearts of gold. You have an established world already built, and we all wanted to see more of these two characters beyond their local access TV show. We wanted to see them in the world that they created, and we don't even care what the plot is. These guys are so funny and lovable, you could send them into space and I'd still love it. This has to be Mike Myers at his most earnest and vulnerable in a film. You really feel like Wayne is this real guy living in a place that he loves with his best friend, and all he wants to do is be himself. It's so refreshing to see such an exposed, cool guy in a 90s movie, a time when not caring and being cool were the two main characteristics of lead characters. Wayne and Garth are somehow both super cool and huge losers at the same time. I love it. Part of the film just feels like Wayne showing you the town that he grew up in, and you get to meet really funny, interesting characters along the way. Like Ed O'Neill. This guy could have his own movie.
I'd never done a crazy thing in my life before that night. Why is it? If a man kills another man in battle, it's called heroic. Yet if he kills a man in the heat of passion, it's called murder.
Hello! What do you think you're doing?
Just everything about this movie seems to click together. All the randomness of the bits fall into the world that they're in. When they break the fourth wall, it doesn't feel forced or lazy. And it's one of the best shot SNL films on this list. Like MacGruber, I could understand how this might be a lot of people's number one choice, but for me, there's one film that just edges this one out.
Delaware. Hi. I'm in Delaware.
Before we get to number one, just a couple shout outs to two other good movies that aren't technically SNL movies, but might as well be. Three Amigos. You got SNL actors, and you got Lorne Michaels as one of the producers, but still not technically an SNL film. I recently rewatched it again for the first time in a really long time, and there are a lot of really amazing parts that still hold up. It's a classic. And also, I have to call out Tommy Boy. If this film counted as an SNL film, it could easily be my number one. I memorized this movie as a child and still love every second of it. Sure, the ending is sloppy and cartoonish, but it's the 90s, all right? It was basically a law for 90s comedies to end that way. Tommy Boy, 10 out of 10 for me.
And then I take my naughty pet and I go. Oh, I killed it!
Moving on to number one. Number one, The Blues Brothers. This is Dan Aykroyd. This is also Dan Aykroyd. This, you guessed it, Dan Aykroyd. Here's a video clip of Dan Aykroyd trying to sell you vodka out of a glass skull.
But there is no jar of ectoplasm, and no one will show us the bodies from Roswell. We've had nothing to touch until now. This is an accurate glass rendering of a human skull.
Now, what if I told you that there was a movie that made Dan Aykroyd look cool? This man, also not just cool, but as cool as John Belushi. No, that's Jim Belushi. Yeah, that guy. Don't think it's possible? Well, you need to watch Blues Brothers, my friend.
It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Every single inch of this film oozes with style. From the characters, to the performances, to the cars, to the locations, it's amazing. Now, it is from 1980, so it's going to have some of those early 80s, late 70s movie problems. It might be a little slow for some viewers today. The sound quality and the dialogue scenes isn't the best. And yeah, the world it takes place in is filthy. But it's 1980. The air was filled with cigarette smoke and leaded gas. This movie came out in a time where car chases and car crashes were basically in every movie, so Blues Brothers decided to not only make a joke about it by having the most car crashes ever put to film at the time, but also they made it extremely enjoyable to watch. So one minute, you're laughing at how ridiculous all these car crashes are, and then the next, you're drawn in by how awesome the stunt driving is. So many amazing and iconic shots are just cars getting smashed to bits. They destroyed 104 cars on screen for this movie. That was a record at the time, a record that was held until, actually, let me check my notes here. 105 cars smashed in Blues Brothers 2000. God dang it!
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
I love this movie so much, and it's a musical. And I hate musicals. That's because this film has more style, story, and substance than anything Andrew Lloyd Webber ever squeezed out of his little bulbous head. I'm actually happy that we can't show you the musical numbers with sound from this thing, because then we'd get copyright struck to hell. But you should look up some of the performances on this thing, or at least it's going to force you to want to watch this thing. It's some of the best people ever doing the thing that they are best at. When I first saw Blues Brothers, it was like no other film I have ever seen. As soon as you see these two on screen together for the first time, it just feels right. With just a few lines of dialogue, they seem to fill in their whole backstory while still somehow keeping them mysterious. It's all just done in its own style. I don't know a lot of films that can give you the feeling that Blues Brothers gives you when you watch it. It's just different. It's really a far cry from anything else on this list, but somehow I could see how it fits. If you haven't seen this classic, make sure to give it a watch, or at the very least, watch some of the musical numbers on YouTube. That is my list. If you like this video, then lucky you, we got 2 YouTube channels for you to subscribe to. You should subscribe right here to the Geekscape network. Lots of great videos about movies, TV shows, comics, and other pop culture goodness. You could also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just search Robert Bacon, or there's a link in the description. If you liked this list, then I suggest checking out my videos ranking every Adam Sandler movie. Thanks for watching, you donkeys.